Football fans far and wide, welcome to episode 10 of the Football v Football podcast. Today we're going to be doing a Week 3 NFL recap of the games today, an action-packed Sunday, and we actually had a recap last week as well, but I messed up the audio, unfortunately. So hopefully in subsequent weeks we can like have a roundtable of folks so we can get different opinions, and I think that would be pretty cool. So just gonna do this today solo and go through some of the games. So starting with the Philadelphia Eagles, who defeated the Washington Commanders 24-8. So a few notes on this game. On Philadelphia's side, Devonta Smith transcendent, and this is a guy that if he was the only good receiver on this team without AJ Brown, could have days like this almost every week of 150 yards and multiple touchdowns. He definitely has that ability, and it looks like he's becoming more sturdy, more built for this league. He was able to withstand a lot of big hits today. I remember when there was a deep bomb, maybe it was about 50 yards, and he got almost sandwiched between two Washington defenders, and he flipped over and he was okay. Back in Alabama, or maybe even last year in this league, if that had happened to him, he would have almost definitely gotten injured. So really good to see that kind of progression from him. Good stuff again from Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and this team overall. 24-8. That's nothing to sneeze at. It should have been 24-2. Really, there was a really late game touchdown by Washington, but Philly looks like a good team. There was a lot of hype about them at the beginning of the year. I didn't really see it, to be honest, but as I'm watching this year, they're doing well. Very solid in all facets of the game. For Washington, their defense, I will give a lot of credit to their run defense. They were very stout. They stopped Hurts a number of times. I don't remember Miles Sanders or Gainwell doing too much. I think that there was a goal line stop that they had that was very impressive, and then also they had a safety on on one of Philly's runs when they were backed up in the end zone. So credit to their run defense, but that's about it. Their pass defense, really bad, really bad. I think it's been like that maybe the past or the entire season so far. And on offense, just not much to. I mean, they couldn't string anything together. I look forward to when Brian Robinson enters this offense. I think he's going to add a big spark to it. Antonio Gibson didn't do much. Averaged, I think it was something like last time I saw it, it was 11 rushes for 33 yards, and he got that very, very late touchdown at the end of the game when they were already losing 24-2. So not much to be impressed with, but by Washington in this game. I thought they had some hope. Maybe after the first two games, they showed some problems on offense, but those were against some weaker teams, it looks like. So they're going to have to improve a lot to be formidable and even contend for a playoff spot. But right now, I don't really see it. Next game, Indianapolis Colts defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 20-17. The shocker of the week. I don't think anybody saw this coming. Starting with Kansas City, the biggest takeaway of this game is that fight between, or the verbal argument between Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, and the offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. Mahomes wanting to go for it at the end of the second quarter, at the end of the first half. And the way the game played out, it looks like they should have. I mean, that really kind of crystallizes this whole argument more because they ended up losing the game and it was only by 3 points. So Bieniemy hasn't been able to get a job in this league for many years, even though he's been the OC of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's been kind of a mystery as to why. But it seems like there's only bad stuff coming out about his dealings in some of these moments, and maybe dealings with some of his players. There's no doubt that Andy Reid is probably he's the offensive mind. He's guiding a lot of this, and Bieniemy has been tied to him just because he is the offensive coordinator. Andy Reid can't be both, but it's not a good look. It's not a good look, and I will say, just watching this game, Mahomes, he continues to show his athleticism. He's a tremendously skilled runner. The way he goes, the way he slides, the way he moves around in and out of the pocket. He had more of those sidearm throws, and just a tremendous athlete. And he's continued to ascend in his time in the NFL. I remember him playing at Texas Tech, and he was not nearly as polished as this. So he continues to be very impressive. The loss of Tyreek Hill is starting to show for sure. Juju Smith-Schuster and Marcus Valdez-Scantling are just kind of average receivers at this point. They're nowhere near the breakout receiver Tyreek is. And Kelsey had some good plays today, but there was a play at the end where he could have won the game and didn't pull through, and he took blame for that. I think he came out and said that after the game. But Indianapolis at the beginning of the game, I saw that their best receiver, Michael Pittman, only had 3 receptions for 4 yards. It was looking bleak. It was looking just like, because they got blanked last week. It was looking pretty bleak for them. But the way they came back in this game showed a lot of fight, showed a lot of heart, and this was kind of touted by people like Bill Simmons and a lot of people in the media as a blow that this is the guarantee of the week, the Chiefs beating the Colts. But this shows why you should never bet on an NFL game. This was the perceived best team in the league versus possibly the perceived worst team in the league. A lot of these power rankings had them at polar ends, and to see what happened today, any given Sunday, something like this can happen, and shows that there's parity in this league. I mean, it happens all the time. So, um, yeah, Indianapolis 20, Kansas City 17. Maybe they took them too lightly, um, but huge, huge, huge win for the Colts. Huge win. So we'll see what happens in that AFC South division now. So moving on to the Chicago Bears beating the Houston Texans 23-20. On Houston's side, I thought they finally got Dameon Pierce. They're starting to get Dameon Pierce involved a little bit. I think he had 20 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown, his first touchdown in the NFL. Lovie Smith was extra motivated in this game, even though I low-key think that Houston is trying to lose games. Lovie Smith was motivated to beat his old team here, the Bears, and they absolutely had a chance. It was close all game. Fields was getting nothing. I mean, they weren't doing anything. I mean, Fields was getting stopped all game, but it was all Khalil Herbert. I mean, this was the Khalil Herbert game, the running back for the Chicago Bears. After Montgomery went down, that guy's a tremendous player. He's a really, really good player. That's why I ranked him so high at the beginning of the season or before the season in the running back rankings. If Montgomery is going to stay healthy, which I don't know that he will, Khalil Herbert is a great, great backup to him and could be the starter. Another thing I'll say about Houston is that their offensive line is terrible, and the fact that Dameon Pierce is getting any yards at all, let alone averaging, whatever he did today, what is that, 20 carries, 80 yards. anybody worse than Dameon Pierce would do a lot worse, and this game wouldn't have been competitive. They got Nico Collins involved a little bit. Davis Mills threw some interceptions. Yeah, I mean, this team has potential, but it's just, I think they can do a lot better. I still think they're kind of throwing games for a high draft pick. So, next game, Baltimore Ravens beat the New England Patriots 37 to 26. So, Baltimore here, Lamar Jackson, my opinion of this guy is he is one, of course, the best running quarterback in the league. That's not a question. He's the best running quarterback in the league. Two, he is the best quarterback throwing to tight ends in the league, and it showed that again today. Not only Mark Andrews, but there's another, maybe one or two other tight ends that he continued to throw to, and that he kills it. He kills it when he throws the tight ends. But him trying to get Rashad Bateman involved, or even Duvernay, he has maybe one big throw to Duvernay, like all all three of these first three games. But Bateman, he just the deep threat guy. Like Duvernay is even kind of a like a midfield kind of target for him. But Bateman, he's supposed to be the big deep threat, the quintessential number one big receiver, and Lamar is just not accurate enough to continuously get him the ball. And that might have been okay today against the Patriots, who are just struggling overall. But in those big games, this deficiency in the accuracy, when a good defense, when you starts playing against really good defenses, this deficiency in his deep ball accuracy, or even like anything past the middle of the field, is going to start showing up. And maybe it's something they'll work on and they'll get better at. But this is something I continue to see all throughout his career so far. Um, New England, they finally got Devontae Parker involved. I'm glad they did that. He showed a lot of promise with the Dolphins. Glad he's finally getting a chance. There was a play with Mac Jones pitching the ball on a 2-point conversion to Ramondre Stevenson, and then Ramondre pitching it back to Mac Jones that I thought should have been. I thought should have counted. They said Stevenson was down, but that play was just that was incredible. Just I don't know if it was the design of the play, but a running back thinking to kind of option it back off to his quarterback, and then the quarterback running into the end zone. I think he ran like at least like 3 or 4 yards through some contact and got in there. I thought that was a really cool play. I thought that was really unique. It's a shame they didn't count it. Um, but one takeaway here for New England, Mac Jones getting pounded every game this season. It's going to be interesting to see how much more he can take. It looked like he exited with another injury today. He had a leg injury. Last week he had a back injury. If this team has to go to Brian Hoyer, um, they're going to be pretty bad. And there's only so much that those running backs are really good. I like Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, and they have some other guys that are good as well. And they have good receivers. I like the receiver. I like Devontae Parker. I like Jacoby Myers, and um, who's the other guy? The third guy, I forget. But they have solid receivers. Aguilar. Um, Nothing spectacular. I think Devontae could be a legit wide receiver one. But if they have to go to Hoyer again, it's going to be tough. So this line has to find a way to protect Mac Jones. Going to the next game, Carolina Panthers beat New Orleans Saints 22-14. For Carolina, although they did win this game, they're still not getting DJ Moore involved. Something with Baker Mayfield. You saw something similar in Cleveland where he'll just fade his best receiver. Like it happened with Odell in Cleveland, and it drove him out. I mean that's why he's no longer on the Browns, because this isn't always going to work. I think maybe he's kind of scared, or he's tepid when he sees a good cornerback, and he doesn't even try. So the way he's playing quarterback now is not going to be sustainable. You got to get DJ Moore the ball more. Uh, you're playing against the Saints. You barely win. That's fine. But moving forward, you got to get DJ Moore the ball more. For New Orleans, um, Mark Ingram, he is one of those unicorns. It's looking like he's looking very similar to Frank Gore. It looks like he's one of those guys that just has a long career inexplicably. He looks like he's going to plot his way to the Hall of Fame. It just seems like he's going to continue to rack up yards like this. And the Saints defense, they're going to be the downfall of this team. They continue to play poorly. There was also talk of Jameis possibly not starting next week, and Andy Dalton maybe taking over. I think if the losses continue to rack up for New Orleans, they're just going to turn to Andy Dalton. Um, Maybe Taysom Hill. I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll continue to give Taysom Hill more work and just run it like that. But to squander the talents of Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Olave, who had a big day today, with an average quarterback like Winston, uh, it's just a shame. It's a shame. So moving on to the next game, Cincinnati Bengals beat New York Jets 27-12. My main takeaway of this game is that the New York Jets had a ton of chances to stay in this game, and they just squandered them over and over and over. Those 12 points were just 4 field goals. And, you know, Flacco kind of emptied the gun at the end of last game, it seems like. This is what we saw at the end of last game when they came back against the Browns. That's not what Flacco is now. This game was what Flacco is now. To go an entire game without scoring a touchdown. And Cincinnati wasn't super impressive, to be honest. They just did enough to win. Jamar Chase didn't do a bunch. T. Higgins got injured, but then came back. Tyler Boyd had a good reception and run. Joe Mixon didn't do much. I think P. Ryan, his backup, did more than him. Bengals, they don't seem to be very. Let me put it this way. I think there is a very, very, very low chance they get back to the Super Bowl this year. Less than 5%. They look like they were kind of pumped up last year, and this year they're going to maybe fall to average, just barely make the playoffs maybe. So on to the next game. Miami Dolphins beat the Buffalo Bills 21-19. This was a great, great close game. Miami just plays great games. It seems it's always entertaining to watch their games. On Buffalo's side, Isaiah McKenzie really popped in this game. He's a great, great speedy player. I noticed that James Cook, their running back, the rookie running back, is a great blocker, and that's going to bode well for his future in this league. And on the other side of that, their starting running back, Devin Singletary, I think his only chance to remain in this league and have a long career is to continue to be a pass catcher the way he is. That's his best skill. His skills as a runner, he's not able to get through a lot of these big defensive linemen, but he was a tremendous pass catcher today. And when you get him in space, that's when he's most valuable. And so he really excelled in that today. So I think his future in the league is in that as a like a James White type of role. Josh Allen collapsed in the fourth quarter. At the end of the game, he should have thrown 4 or 5 picks. I mean, those Dolphins defenders were getting their hands on everything. And this is not indicative. This close score, 21-19, is not indicative of Miami should have absolutely won this game and by more, and there should have been a pick six. And the fact that it was even this close, and we all saw maybe the video takeaway of this whole week was the Bills' offensive coordinator, I believe, in the booth, throwing papers, breaking headsets, breaking tablets, just absolutely going crazy when they couldn't get a field goal off at the end of the game. Um, But Buffalo's a good team. I think they'll rebound from this. There are some exceptional things about this game. This game was in it was very hot, especially for late September. I think it was 100 degrees. People were cramping up. Stephon Diggs was especially. They showed him many times cramping up. Uh, I thought Miami did a great job of making Diggs pretty much useless in this game. And I think one of Miami's big strengths is being able to use. So Jalen Waddle and Tyreek may be the best duo, wide receiving duo in the league, but their ability to create a diversion for one or the other. Um, there was many plays where Tyreek was just a diversion and he gathered two or three receivers, uh, and that allowed for Waddle to get past the safety and have a big play. So I think that's one of their huge. Uh, that's something they can continue to use over the weeks to continue to gain an advantage. Have one of them create a diversion, draw two or three of the defensive backs, and then have the other one go and have solo coverage. So, um, yeah, I don't know how much longer it's going to stay this hot in Miami. I think Tampa was also very hot as well, but that's a huge advantage to Miami and a big reason why they won this game. It's also a divisional game, but that was a huge reason why they won this game. So on to the next game. Minnesota Vikings beat the Detroit Lions 28 to 24. So on Detroit's side, um, they did very they came in with the game plan to keep Justin Jefferson out of the game, and they executed that perfectly um, until the very end. I mean, they kept Justin Jefferson out of the game, but the defense itself blew the game at the very end. They should have had this game. They were up by 10 late in the fourth quarter, um, and they just blew it to the other guys other than Justin Jefferson. I think Madison, KJ Osborne, the peripheral guys are the ones that were able to seal this game. The Kirk Cousins of essentially Kirk Cousins continues to shine in these non-primetime games. You get him in a primetime game, he's a completely different player. But in these games, he continues to shine, and he won this game at the end. One other thing about the Lions, they have great offensive weapons, and it continued to show today. They put up 24 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift. They have great offensive weapons, and this team is just missing a little something on defense to seal games. And these past years they've been so close, but um, maybe they'll put it together. I'm not sure. So the next game, the Tennessee Titans beat the Las Vegas Raiders 24 to 22. On Tennessee's side, this is Derrick Henry's season. This is where he's gonna feast now until he gets injured, and they're gonna use him a lot, just like they do every year. Uh, I got to give big credit to the Tennessee defense. Uh, there was a play where Darren Waller should have caught a touchdown, but he heard footsteps and they had gotten into his head, and just as he was about to catch the ball, he kind of shielded himself. So um, he didn't only shield himself. The ball came off of him, and then it got intercepted in the end zone. So that was a defining moment in the game. Devontae Adams had a great catch, and they just got to throw it up to him more. I mean, honestly, I mean that's Derek Carr's forte. Derek Carr was less accurate today. Tennessee defenders were getting their hands on everything, but you got to get Devontae the ball more. I mean, you got to throw those moon balls up to him. That's Devontae. That's Derek Carr's forte, and that's what Devontae can be good at. So there just needs to be more of that, and it's something I see similar to the Seattle offense, where it, there's a certain way that you can just get DK the ball more, and Gino just needs to do that, and I'll talk about that in the next game coming up here. But they need to do that a lot more. He only got two catches last week, and this week was also they didn't give him the ball enough. So there just needs to be more Devontae. Speaking of the Seahawks, the next game, Atlanta Falcons beat the Seattle Seahawks 27 to 23. I could talk a lot about this game, obviously, but the the Falcons had good defensive back play, um, but the only thing that Seattle was doing was essentially dump, dunking it down to their tight ends. I mean, the tight ends were feasting in this game. Will Disley had a touchdown. Parkinson had a big play. DK didn't get involved till the very end, and they were playing good defense on him. But on the other side, Seattle's defensive backs are just awful, just really bad. And they were missing some guys, Artie Burns, Sidney Jones, but those aren't even the starters. And there was a game-losing turnover by Gino again, and it's just as a Seahawks supporter, it's giving me PTSD. And this team is tough to watch. I mean, Seattle's tough to watch. They give up a lot of points on defense and a lot of big chunk plays. Even if they don't give up touchdowns, they just give up these huge chunk plays, and they play this soft zone, and it's tough to watch. It's nothing like this team used to be, and Gino's not coming back in these games. I mean, that's not what he does. I mean, he plays. There is some efficiency into what he does, but he's just not exceptional, and he's not going to win games where they have to come back like this. So that was the story of this game. Los Angeles Rams beat the Arizona Cardinals 20 to 12. Um, Arizona. The first thing I noticed is I remember that J.J. Watt was on this team. I had completely forgotten. He got a sack late in the game. Hollywood Brown. They're finally getting him involved and integrated. He there's some plays where he doesn't show a lot of effort, but he's extremely talented, and he was catching balls over Jalen Ramsey. So if you throw it in his direction, he'll get it. But if it requires like running forward or giving a ton of effort, I saw him take some plays off essentially, or just get frustrated and show it. Um, for the Rams, I will say that Cam Akers is probably the most bipolar player in terms of production. I mean, he'll give you everything or he'll give you nothing. Um, I think he had one touchdown today, and then everything else he was just not doing anything. I think Darrell Henderson did more than him today. The Cooper Cup to Stafford connection wasn't as sharp as it normally is, but it was enough to win. These teams are again. This is a divisional game. These teams are very familiar with each other. Um, I thought this game could have gone either way. The Rams were maybe a little bit better today, but Kyler continues to just be dangerous week to week. And Greg Dortch, I mean, I'm a big fan of Greg Dortch. He got him involved. They need a running back. James Conner's not going to do it. This team needs a running back. Benjamin's not gonna do it. So if Arizona gets a running back, they could be dangerous. When they get Hopkins back, they will be dangerous. But the Rams were a little better today. So moving to the late window games, the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Los Angeles Chargers 38 to 10. That's more than beating. That's a whooping. Jacksonville. Some notes I have here. They're not utilizing Travis Etienne enough. These are the best years to use him, and maybe they're just using James Robinson until he gets injured. And I'm not gonna say he's not a good player. I think he is a good player. But Etienne has the possibility of being like one of the best pass catching running backs in the league. I mean, the way he breaks tackles, the way he gives effort, how fast he is. I think can't say much on a 38 to 10 game. I just think that there could be more. They're leaving a lot on the table by not using him more. Um, the Trevor Lawrence to Zay Jones connection is real. I mean, they're seeing eye to eye. I mean, he clearly prefers Zay Jones, and they have a great rapport. So if you have and Zay Jones is, if you need somebody like in fantasy or something, for example, Zay Jones is a great pickup. Jacksonville defense, Trayvon Walker, their number one pick, that linebacker. He he's a game wrecker, man. This guy, he's great as both a pass rusher and in coverage. I saw him cover a tight end or a receiver today and got a pass deflection, and he looked like a defensive back, but he's like a linebacker and a pass rusher. He just like plays everything. He's like a Mika Parsons type player. Just he's just everywhere. So he's very impressive. Jacksonville defense overall is impressive. They gotten a lot of high picks over the last few years on defense, and it's showing. This team is kind of coming together. Um, Justin Herbert was playing hobbled and without Keenan Allen, but nonetheless, this defense looked good. And I will say that Mike Williams, he continues to get better every year. He wasn't, they didn't throw him the ball as much today, but he is a number one receiver, I would say. And it was the fault of Herbert in this offense that he wasn't as involved as he should have been today. So moving on to the next game, the Green Bay Packers beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 14-12. So on the Green Bay side, Rodgers seems to be creating good wide receivers as he always does with these rookies, Romeo Doubs, and then also the improvement we saw from Christian Watson from the first week to the second week, even though he was out this week. That's just what he does. He creates great receivers, and he has his own way of motivating them and getting them to get better. But that was essentially this game. It was just his connection with Lazard and Dobbs. And it was a 14-12 game. It was a close game. I don't know how Tampa Bay actually managed to keep this game competitive. I watched most of the game. I still don't know. Fournette had some plays. They were missing Mike Evans and Julio Jones, but kudos to Tom Brady for keeping this game close and that running game. Other than that, it was a very kind of boring game. Finally, the Denver Broncos beat the San Francisco 49ers 11-10 in a game that was very, very difficult to watch. It was 7-5 for like most of the game. One thing I'll say here is that the learning curve for Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett in Denver has been way steeper than I expected, especially given their great offensive weapons. And I'll say that there might be something to be said about this new strategy about not playing your quarterback in the preseason, especially if it's a new quarterback and a new offense and a new system. I think that might be one explanation for it. Might just be rust for Russ. Um, and they had a late touchdown drive that salvaged this game um, for Russ, and he looked like he used to in Seattle. But it was very late in the game, and it very easily could have gone the other way. Um, both defenses, I thought, for most of this game looked really good. Garoppolo kind of reverted back to what he was, not great. Kittle was just kind of getting his feet wet. He just came back finally for the first game of the season today. And yeah, these look like okay teams, but their defenses are definitely better than their offenses. So just some takeaways I had just overall. Um, Related to accessories of basically the wearables of the NFL. So what I'm starting to notice more and more is a lot of players are wearing long t-shirts below their jerseys, and they're t-shirts that are terrible. And when I say that, I don't mean Terrible. I mean Tear-able. So when a defender tries to tackle them, instead of getting their jersey, which would bring them down, which is made of better material, this t-shirt material tears away and allows the offensive player to continue to run. And they're exploiting that. On the other side of it, the defense continues to be very, very effective at punching out the ball for fumbles. I mean, most of the fumbles you see now are punch outs. So I foresee what offensive players already have with those sticky gloves, whatever that sticky material is, that also being added to the armbands that they have. Some sticky armband so that you are less likely to fumble the ball. I think that's going to become prevalent soon. So look out for that. And remember where you heard it. I'll finish this with my hottest take which is I think that Cordero Patterson is on something. I'm not going to say what he is on, but there's something that he is doing to defy aging. It's not like guys like Frank Gore, Mark Ingram, who I mentioned earlier. They look, even though they continue to be effective, they look like they're veterans in the league. Cordero Patterson has been in the league for 10 years and doesn't look like a veteran. He was jumping over people. He was breaking through tackles. He didn't used to play like this. He used to be a receiver or return man, and then to go to running back and be this effective. I'm just gonna say there's something going on there. You fill in the blank. So that's our show for today. That's the Week 3 recap. Follow us on all social medias. On Instagram, football_v_football. On Twitter, fballvfball. This podcast is on YouTube and Spotify and Anchor. And to support the podcast, we're on Ko-fi. ko-fi.com/football. So as I mentioned before, hopefully in subsequent weeks we'll be able to get a roundtable going to get more opinions on this. I think that would be a lot more fun. So stay tuned for that hopefully next week. But in the meantime, thanks all for listening. I appreciate it. Have a fantastic day, football fans.